Thank you for coming, Matt.
My pleasure.
You are the authority for the auto shows every year. At Bloomberg, you are the authority.
I go to all the auto shows for sure, and I'm the only guy here who knows how a combustion engine works, so that makes me the authority.
And you also know the details. Tell me, what's different in terms of innovation this year?
You know, this year what we see is continued improvements in fuel economy. So that continues to just ratchet up to unbelievable levels. You get the kind of fuel economy that previously you would have only gotten from Japanese cars like a Honda Accord out of a Porsche 911. So we're seeing that across the board. But what's really interesting, I think, is that you see so many more station wagons couched as GTs or fastbacks. They're trying to make the station wagon sexy. So they don't call it a station wagon, but you see so many more designs like that. They mostly call it a GT, a Grand Touring car. For example, BMW has 3 GTs out right now. It had the 5 Series GT that is only selling here instead of the station wagon now. The 3 Series GT that just unveiled in New York, they also have a 3 Series station wagon, but the GT actually has more room in it than the station wagon. And then they've got their 6 Series Grand Coupe, which is more of a fastback. So you're seeing a lot of this. Basically, car makers want you to be able to fit your whole family or all of your friends or 2 sets of golf clubs and a buddy in the car, but they don't want to call it a station wagon, so they're coming up with other ways to kind of package it.
That's interesting. There must be demand also that they're doing this. And how about the people that you interviewed? You interviewed lots of presidents, right? High-profile people from the automotive sector. Who did you interview?
Well, I interviewed everybody that you can think of, and at each of these events, we're fortunate enough to have access to all of the CEOs. The interesting thing from the C-suite this year was the fight over the yen, or the fight over currencies, because a lot of American car makers, Alan Mulally, who actually was in Bangkok during the New York Car Show, but gave an interview to us on our Asian television channel, said, it's not fair that the Japanese currency has depreciated so quickly. That's giving Japanese car makers a boost. Now, I heard that also from guys who are running GM here in New York. The American car makers were complaining about it very loudly. But the Japanese car makers were saying, hey, we already had a disadvantage because the yen had risen so much in the previous few years. Carlos Ghosn, for example, I spoke to here in New York, and he said, come on, you know, it's come up so fast that when it comes down a little bit, the American car makers complain. But he really thinks the yen should be about 110 for the dollar, which is a little bit more depreciation than we even see today. So Carlos Ghosn saying that it's getting back to fair levels. And then other car makers had some very interesting takes. For instance, Jim Lentz from Toyota pointed out that they make 70% of the cars that they sell in America here in America. They employ over 30,000 Americans. They source a lot of their parts from America, so they buy their stuff already dollar denominated, and they don't get a huge bonus from what they sell here in yen.
Very interesting points about those interviews. And let's go back to the show again. Which car did you find the most interesting or sexier? Can we tell that to our Turkish audience?
Definitely. So the GT3, the Porsche GT3 is the newest, fastest, biggest Porsche 911 that they've ever built. And it is amazing. If I could take any car to drive from the show, that would be it. No question. It's absolutely the pinnacle of the driving experience. If you're a guy who likes to take cars on the track, if you're somebody who likes to occasionally go a little over the speed limit on the highway and take the corners really hard, this is the car for you. It's got 2 turning axles, so the back wheels turn as well as the front wheels, and they turn against each other if you're going into a tight corner, with each other if you're going around a long sweeping corner. So I thought that was amazing.
How much was it, by the way, the key question?
I think it cost about $210,000, so it's definitely not cheap. But if you have the money, cheaper than the Bugatti for sure, and I think it's probably a lot more fun to drive than the Bugatti. You can definitely take it on the track, and the Bugatti seems to be the kind of car that's made for the straightaways. If you have that kind of money, though, and you don't care so much about lap times, the Rolls-Royce Wraith, I think, was the sexiest car there. Definitely the most romantic car at the show. It's a 2-door, but it's got suicide doors, so they open the opposite way than you'd expect. It's a fastback. It's a huge car. It's bigger than the Ghost, and it's got over 600 horsepower. So it goes 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. That's faster than the base model Porsche 911. So this massive, massive car has a giant twin-turbo 12-cylinder engine that just takes it really fast, and also has a starry sky lining in the top.
Luxurious.
Yeah, it's very romantic, like I said.
But did it win an award? This year?
I'm not sure if it won an award. This was the first time any of us has ever seen it. It definitely deserves to win an award. Of course, it costs over $300,000 just to start before you put any of the options on it. But again, if you have that kind of money to spend, I think that's the car to go for.
And my last question, do you see that the automotive sector is really rebounding? In terms of the auto show, it gives us many new cars, projects, innovations that you explained and described to us. But how about you? Do you think and feel it that it's coming back?
For sure. So here in the U.S., the auto sector is definitely rebounding. I mean, we're getting back to normal levels of 15 million car sales per year. So in the U.S., there's no question that we've come back from the abyss. That's being helped by the housing market, which is rebounding here. That's being helped by easy credit. If you want to go out and get a car loan, it's much easier than getting a loan to buy a house now in the U.S. So definitely here. Globally, you've still got the drag of Europe. So you're still going to see a lot of car makers put up big losses there. Ford and GM had losses of almost $2 billion there last year. Some of the bigger car makers, Volkswagen, for example, the biggest European car maker, still saw a slump in sales last year because the demand has just shrunk to a level that you haven't seen in 20 years in Europe. But they're definitely overcoming that, and they're starting to come back up from the bottom. So a lot of the automakers we spoke to, U.S. automakers, have said, we've reached a bottom and we're coming back in Europe. And a lot of the bigger luxury car makers, for example, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Porsche, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, they're all seeing a rebound now in Europe. And they actually all had growth in Western Europe in 2012. So the picture looks to be improving for sure.
Thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see you in that Porsche that you mentioned.
My pleasure. I can't wait to see me in it either, and I'll take you for a ride if I get it.
Thank you. Thank you again.